All right, folks, hour number 2, Thursday edition. By the way, happy Halloween. Could you tell if you're watching on Newsmax TV? What a costume, huh? Now, if you're listening on the radio, I'm not allowed to tell you what that costume is. So, you just have to use your imagination. But this costume is pretty amazing. I must say so myself. Very proud of this costume. Okay, what if I told you that Iran had reached the point of no return and could make a bomb in 2 weeks? 2 weeks. You'd laugh at me. You'd say, you, whatever, so-and-so, nut job. Well, I'm sorry, it's not me. It's a man who knows what he's talking about, unlike me, I guess is what I'm implying. And joining us now is Olli Heinonen, fellow at the Kennedy School at Harvard and the former IAEA deputy director. And Mr. Heinonen, it's a pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's
happy Halloween.
Yes, happy Halloween. I don't have a costume on, by the way. I'm just making believe. Anyway, so how do you come to your conclusion, sir, that Iran is that close and that capable of actually making a bomb?
First of all, it can do if it wishes to do so. So they have the capabilities. Under certain conditions, they can go as quick as in 2 weeks to produce uranium hexafluoride, which is weapons grade. But we ought to keep in our mind that this doesn't mean that they have a nuclear weapon yet. That will take some additional time. But
they can't. But am I accurate that you say they have the ability to enrich enough missile-grade uranium to build a bomb in 2 weeks? Correct?
No. This is then you have uranium after 2 weeks. But you still need to manufacture the components of the bomb.
Okay, and that would take how long if they decided today they wanted to do it?
Maybe 1 or 2 months, depending which are the preparations.
Okay, so do you believe that the United States is aware of this? Do you believe that Iran has any intention of ditching this program and just using nuclear power for electricity and energy needs?
Well, you ask many things, but let's start from the very beginning. Intentions are very difficult to measure, let's be honest on that. But at this point of time, if we look in a very cool technical way, Iran is producing enriched uranium, which it doesn't really need for its current nuclear program, civilian nuclear program. So it appears from that more that they might be hedging or building a capability, perhaps either to go to that route or be better positioned to the negotiations with P5+1.
You served on the IAEA for what, 27 years?
Yeah, that's true.
God bless you. That's a long time anywhere, and 27 years. So you've seen it all. And so if you had to state your belief, so you would say, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'll ask you, do you believe that Iran has every intention at this point of making nuclear bombs?
I don't think there is a hard evidence to that end, but there are a few questions and few concerns which have been raised by the international community with regard of some military-related activities which they have. And I think it's important that we understand what they are. Are they really for the development of a nuclear weapon, or are they for some other purposes? And before we have facts on hand, I don't think we can go either way and say that, yes, it's clearly a nuclear weapons program, or it's a program which is looking what you need to do if you want to develop nuclear weapons, or is it third only hedging, or fourth just for the civilian purposes. I think that the jury is still out for that.
We're talking to Olli Heinonen, former IAEA Deputy Director, and he, as we mentioned earlier, is a fellow at the Kennedy School at Harvard here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Would you have any advice for the nations negotiating, or for President Obama specifically? And also there's a report today that the Ayatollah's health is in some question, and that might be cause a power struggle at the top of the Iranian government. So with all that into consideration, I don't know how political you want to get, but would you have any advice in the negotiations? I mean, do you lean more towards Benjamin Netanyahu and their position that says, you know, don't trust them, or do you lean more on Obama's position and John Kerry, who say, we should not increase the sanctions. We should soften the sanctions.
Actually, I would count more on Ronald Reagan, who said trust and verify. So the facts are the ones which are needed. And I think that is an important juncture in various ways, because there is a change in the leadership in Iran on one hand, and they seem to be more open for the discussions. At the same time, we see that the sanctions are biting. And the third thing is that they are increasing these enrichment capabilities with such a speed that they really reach this capability that if they want to go to nuclear, they really can do. So this is time to do now and discuss a serious deal. But we have to keep in our mind that what this all is, that we need to start from the clean slate, which means to me, we need to understand what's the nuclear program, what really is there, is this all what we see, is this all what Iran has in terms of nuclear materials and enrichment capabilities? And therefore, any step from here onwards should start with full, complete declaration from Iran, what is their nuclear purpose program, and which are all the aspects of that.
And let me ask you, sir, having said that, let me ask you, if I may, if you feel that you want to speak on it, there's a report today that Syria has destroyed or rendered inoperable all of its declared chemical weapons production and mixing facilities, which meets a deadline set by the international community. The Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, which won the Nobel Peace Prize earlier this month, said that its teams had inspected 21 of 23 chemical weapons sites. The other 2 were too dangerous to inspect, but the equipment, they say, had already been moved to the other sites. Do you buy that Syria now has had all of their weapons facilities inspected, and that they're going to destroy everything that they had already originally had?
Well, this is an important milestone, but what still remains to be confirmed, that this was indeed all the capabilities, and whatever materials they had now presented to the international community, this is all, and there is nothing left. So the work is not even half done. We are in the very beginning. It's an encouraging beginning, but the real investigative work remains in the front of that organization. And
do you believe, sir, that it's possible to know what Syria had? Because there was a month or 2 month period even between the point where the United States threatened military action and then this agreement was worked out with Russia and Syria. So they had all kinds of time to move these weapons even to another country. They could, have the inspectors in Syria for all they want, but then theoretically they could always move back some chemical weapons, correct?
That's true, and this is a very painstaking process, but this was done successfully in Iraq and also in Libya. And what you ought to do there is to go back to the whole production history of those chemical weapons, identify all the R&D people, institutions involved, make a complete historical stock, and then combine that with the information which you have from outside, intelligence, procurement, etc. And then you put this whole picture together. And if it is consistent and there are no gaps, you can, to a certain level, assure that everything has been declared. But this is still months, if not years away from today. It's not a quick process. We saw it in Iraq, and we saw it in Libya.
Well, Olli Heinonen, a fellow at the Kennedy School at Harvard and former IAEA Deputy Director. A pleasure to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure. Okay, folks, there you go. Very interesting. And I was just reading from a story when I said that its nuclear weapons program could have the ability to enrich enough missile uranium grade to build a bomb in just 2 weeks. Anyway, so it's a month. But anyway, we're coming back. Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio, 877 Newsmax.